Hey there. So today, while looking around the internet, I ran across this, and I thought, well, this is standard fare. I run into people like this all the time. They're preachers of the gospel of low expectation. And when I say that, I mean I look at what they say, and I already have a feel for what type of person they are. Looking at other posts by them, they think, for example, that using something besides they and their identifiers, that is literally a threat to someone's humanity. They think that when they engage, if they don't engage correctly, that you're trying to go after a marginalized class, like what we're doing here when we're talking about criticism. That is literally trying to destroy someone's life. But now on the other side of that, when people are talking about white, straight, cis dudes, well, so what? They have a formulary. They think that, power and Pringles and, potato chips, throw them all together, and, well, you have privilege, and if you don't have that, then it's okay to talk about people this way. I have to say that if you believe that, if you think that you have to shield your thoughts behind some kind of wall, you are definitely a racist, you're a bigot, you're a sexist, and on. Still, this kind of stuff, again, this is the day-to-day internet kind of garbage that you run across. Sadly, it does have enough steam to pick up 322 likes, but still, again, day-to-day internet. The thing that bothered me within this was who I saw on this, because this person represents DC Comics. They are going with somebody speaking, again, this gospel of low expectation, this hatred here, and this is very much a made-up scenario that at best badmouths comic shops, but at worst, when you look at it, it is full of hatred, and they add on to it like this pretend scenario, like somebody's out there trying to destroy their lives. They preach hatred. If we switched up all of these words and we put in, a black person, or we put in somebody that identifies a different way, say they identify as trans, then we're playing on a whole different ballgame. We actually saw that last night when we were looking at an award show. We had someone get up there and they were speaking, and this person talked about 4 men and 1 female being there. That was the people that they were talking about for the main award. The problem with that was that 2 of those males, they were actually minorities. So when you said that, they were not applicable. That was a bad thing to say. This kind of stuff, it's out of hand. And we have somebody that is supposed to be a professional that's supposedly following DC's commandments that were laid down, only they're not. But anyway, let's look at this. Let's check it out together. So this starts off with, diverse comics are only good when well written, said the pasty-looking comic book store clerk as he faced a wall full of mediocre comics about white, straight, cis dudes. Yeah, I'm going to say that didn't happen. Not only did it not happen, but if he's facing a wall full of comic books, it's going to be very hard just to have a thing full of white, straight, cis dudes. We have so much representation out there right now. If there was a Green Lantern title on the wall, boom, we have representation with that. We had Justice League, boom, there we go. We have Wonder Woman, boom. We have so many examples of this. I would boom all day long, but my voice would go freaking out after a little while. Still, the person continues with the, just give me my Miss Marvel and Snot Girl so I can get you out of my line of vision. Yep, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing, because I'm sure that someone actually brought this up to you. I'm sure they used the words, diverse comics are only good when well written. If they probably pointed out a certain type of comic book and they said, these comic books, they're only good when they're written well. And you took that and you added on words, because I imagine that this is a lie. I imagine this probably never transpired in the first place, but if it did, I do not believe the narrative. I do not believe that someone would sit down and say that. And if they did, they're not a professional. Now, I think you could probably agree with that within this scenario, that this person is not a professional. So why then would we hold them to a different standard than we would hold the professionals making comic books? And again, we'll get to that person. So we see people commenting here, all comics are only good when well written, but people tend to notice poorly written diverse comics more. I've well, disagree with that. You know, people have certain comic books that they've hitched into all of their lives, and they'll continue to buy without fail. They'll just buy and buy and buy. However, when something reads like a stereotype, say take an Iceman, for example, when something is written in such a way that were I to have written that, it would read like hate literature, then people really take note of it. What's worse is some of this stuff won awards, literally, because of the way a character identifies. So of course, when you go in and you start looking at it, when you have all this scrutiny because this is supposed to be the first of this kind, award-winning and whatnot, you expect something from it. And those expectations, they oftentimes let you down. That's why we see so many books getting canceled there. And these people, when they talk about that, though, we don't want to talk about that within there. We want to talk about unfair scrutiny. So let's continue there. Sturgeon's Law, 90% of everything is crap. The challenge is to always work so that's our stuff is always in that 10%, and to not talk about much of the art I did in the late 80s, early 90s, which fulfills the majority part of Sturgeon's Law. Now, when looking at this, basically what this person is saying, 90% of everything is crap, but we've got to make sure when we're making stuff, we've got to be better than everything else. We've got to make sure our stuff always falls into that 10%. I think that's a fair statement there. Making sure that your stuff is better than everyone else's stuff. If you want to make sure that your stuff stands out, make it better than everyone else's. I don't think that's an unfair statement at all. In fact, I think that's actually a pretty smart statement within there. Then we get to see somebody we recognize from the rank and file of DC. Things are only good when they're good, but I only complain about it when people unlike me do it. Basically, you're a hateful bigot. That's what Tamara there is going to say. This stuff time and again comes out with some imaginary slight starting this off, and this person always there to tell you those kind of people over there, that's what they do. What's really interesting about that too is these people are always pointing this out. They're always saying, those people, unlike me, that's what they do. Those people, unlike me, they're hateful and they're terrible. I'm going to rail about white cis dudes a little bit more because they're terrible human beings. You continue on and on and on with this imaginary offense here, but, you know, in the real world, this does not have good optics. None of this does. This backs me away from titles I would otherwise buy, and before these people, they say, oh, you wouldn't buy that. I bought all 5 of the Milk Wars things because I had an advertisement to it. I ended up buying 2 without knowing some of the people that were on it, and I need that for completion. But you damn well better bet that the hateful mongers there, they're not getting another dime of my money after this kind of stuff. Continuing, hell. Well, you see, trans people care too much about transness, and that makes their transness to trans very boring. Hashtag diversity hire. Of course, we have to go to that because trans people are always under attack. It's interesting, too, when people are held up there, when they're being held aloft, this is your own way of describing yourself. That's what you're doing right here. You're making a dividing line in the sand, pretending that some imaginary slight happened so you can rail on it. Something that you know did not occur. These things drive me nuts seeing it, and especially from a so-called professional. It is very frustrating for me, a person that sees myself in almost every piece of media, that other people want to talk about things that affects them sometimes. That's a very ugly thing too. Do you think just because my color comes through in another thing that I see myself in almost everyone? Do you think that's how I identify myself? Do you think that everything within that, that is a reflection of me. I would say that if you only see yourself as trans, if that is the only indicator within your life, the only qualifier that you wear, that is the only coat you ever bought, then you're running around naked. And you know what you're seeing outside of that coat? You're seeing something very, very, very ugly. And no, I'm not talking about your body there. I'm talking about the thoughts you keep on display. Those things are very, very ugly. Continuing here. I hate that when I go to the store, the SJWs use the guns they hate to force me to read the comics about women, gays, trans, people of color, almost never multiple at once. Also, I'm not a sexist or a homophobe. I read Titpire, the exotic lesbian, so bitches can't talk. Man, what hateful people here. They're talking about you. They're talking about me. They're talking about all kinds of individuals within that are buying titles such as, I'm going to throw out there again, Hal Jordan, Green Lantern Crew. You know, they have the core, rather. They have so much diversity on display right there. They always have, but when we're looking at it right off the bat, Green Lanterns, we have that, the same thing. But hey, you know, you're not looking at this stuff. Someone's forcing you to read it. The thing people complain about here is forced fake hashtag diversity. When you take something and you arbitrarily change it, when you add fluff and you add this, basically this skin over something that means nothing. It may be something you feel you identify with there, but what is deeper? What are you really cognizant about besides that qualifier? You know, if a person is trans, for example, within a comic book, don't you want more? Shouldn't we be asking for the same thing there? But again, no, everybody's railing on because they're terrible people and they want to take away your humanity. Although within this, the railing that you're doing paints a pretty horrible picture when I see it on display. Tamra continues here. I'm not a bigot. I just talk almost exclusively about how underrepresented people are ruining media I enjoy by making it about people like themselves. Yeah, that's what people talk about all the time, isn't it? They talk about how underrepresented people are doing this and doing that. That is the spin where people that are talking in bad faith, they throw in. Like I said, this all started because of some imaginary slight. That's where we came from, and from there we built all of these other imaginary slights so that just people that are talking about comic books, if they don't like something, they're railing on you because you want to consider yourself marginalized. This is something I really find despicable within comic books, especially because I myself do not look at creators, or at least I didn't at one time until this kind of stuff started going on. When all of this started up, when I had to be aware of things like block bots and whatnot, I became hyper aware of individuals. When I became hyper aware of them, it's all these bad players. People that would insult me because I identify as straight, because I'm white, because I'm male. Apparently I'm a monster within that. Moreover, they're taking away the voices of everyone else that is something different. They boil it down and make everyone else talking about this white, straight males. They've said that time and again when they talk about some of these issues. They talk about things like, I always return to this, but I think that Alex DeCampi said it best when they were going through concern trolls, or you're a racist troll, or my favorite blackface trolls, because those are such ugly terms there. They want to dismiss everything that a person is. They want to say, we are the only people that matter. And then they want to unperson everyone with that amalgam, that gator, and they want to say, everyone, you're the same. There is no diversity of thought. There's no diversity of deed or idea. There's nothing there outside of what they assign you. You either agree with them or you're a terrible human being. I say enough with this garbage. page. I'm going to finish this thought off there. Well, you see the people making books I wouldn't read anyways. Having opinions on the industry once makes me very made. I guess it's supposed to say mad there. That's a very incoherent way of putting together some of these sentences here. But still, when they're sitting around and they're opining to one another and they're saying, yep, those people out there, they're terrible. These people out there represent customers. If a good company would actually step up and they would stop this kind of banter, they would stop this ugly two-faced chatter from transpiring out there, then we wouldn't have people walking away time and again. You know, myself, when I first ran into this a few months ago, when that first person called me a Nazi piece of shit because I actually dared to click the follow button and had the block bot drop on me, that was really surprising to me. More and more people are having their eyes open to this too, and when they see themselves disparaged because they disagree with the quality of something, when they think the art is low or they think that the storytelling is bad, and they're literally told that they're racist or sexist or transphobic and on, that is not how normal people comport themselves. Normal people, they can have discussion. These individuals here, they are not normal people, they're comic pros. And somewhere within comic pro, at least 60% of these people have somehow lost their way, and in doing so, they need to either be told to straighten this up or they need to be dismissed from this industry. I don't know how else you're going to rectify these issues. I don't know how you're going to sit down and you're going to say, sales, they need to go up again. I mean, right now, when we're looking at January to January, we're talking about another 11% downturn in sales. When you're talking about single copies out there, you're talking about a downturn of 2% overall. That stuff, I mean, that's one of the best downturns we've seen since spring of last year, but still, we're not talking about a situation rectifying itself. We're talking about a hole that keeps building. So anyway, I think that's a long enough rant. You know, you can tell me what you think about it. Thank you.